Great. I'm not sure if everyone can hear us all okay. We're just going to give it a go right now and start our webinar. Thank you for all joining us. This is how to generate leads using promotion, analytics, and creativity to create a winning process. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to our co-host here, or the host actually. You're going to be running us through your whole presentation. And Jeff, I'd like to hand it over to you.
All right, awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing with everybody some ideas around lead generation, a process that I've found works really well over the years, and to get started. So it looks like people are rolling in, and I think if we're ready to get started, I can get started, Lauren.
Yep, that is fine by me. Yeah, I can see here that looks like about 32 people have entered. So hello,
Awesome.
everyone, and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, no matter somewhere where you are in the world.
Yes, so it's early here in the morning. I'm in Minneapolis in Minnesota in the US. Why don't you start by letting me know where you're coming from in the chat. I'd love to hear from where you are coming from and learn a little bit more about you. And while we're doing that, well, my audio is a little bit sketchy here where I am, so I might turn off my video, but as you can see, I'm here live in the flesh. To go ahead and see how the webcam works. Okay, awesome. We have Henrik in Denmark. Don't be shy, everybody. Looking forward to hearing where you're coming from. And okay, Caitlin is in Central Illinois. We have Estelle from Belgium. Awesome. Peter from Slovakia. Wow, all over the place.
That's great. Yeah. Good morning or good night to everyone too. as I said.
Yes.
I'm in Southern California, so it's quite early here. So yeah, no, we're looking forward to having you guys all here. And it looks like we keep getting more people coming in. So hello,
awesome.
everyone. And I'll be quiet.
All right, everybody. Wow, a lot of Dutch folks. Good to have you on here. Some more Danes, Johannesburg, South Africa. Awesome. We have multiple continents and countries represented. So thanks for joining us. And I'm going to get into the presentation now. And I'm going to actually disable my webcam so that I can make sure you can hear me. Okay, so let's see how this goes. So I'm Jeff. You just saw me on the camera. And now I'm tucked away and just an audio for you. And my agency over the years has sold over $70 million in services. And so that's quite a bit, maybe not a lot for you, but quite a bit for our agency, and it was a pretty good accomplishment. And we did it without using automated funnels. We did it without using appointment setting calendars where we had a different appointment trying to close a deal every 15 minutes. We did it without sending a single cold outreach email, without having to do bulk outreach email programs, things that I consider to be sometimes useful, but a lot of times off target and really something that I don't really respond to myself. We did it without having to do high pressure sales techniques. So how did we do this? How did all this work? Basically, we created this revenue with no artificials, flavors, colors, or gimmicks. And for me, the reason why is because gimmicky methods of generating leads just never felt right for me. I'm in it for the long haul. I want to create a long-lasting business, a valuable business, and when I bring somebody on as a client, I have clients who are somebody who got caught by a gimmick or got caught by something that maybe isn't something that they thought they were signing up for. So I always want to go after the right clients at the right time. And so I had to develop my own method of attracting the most qualified prospects. And hopefully this is a process that I'm going to share with you now. Hopefully it's a process you can implement either parts of it or all of it for your own business as well. And over the years, it's worked pretty well. Here's a little bit of a stat behind my company. It was a 5-time Inc. 5000 honoree, which is one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. And we're very proud of it, and things have gone really well over the years. And so I'm going to talk about how it's possible to do business development, increase your revenue, and do it in a way that makes you feel good about what you're doing at the end of the day. It's a way that's compliant with things like GDPR. Basically, it's trying to increase the opportunities that we have out there. So giving away my expertise has been a magnet for clients over the years. Basically, if I find a solution or if I develop a solution for a client, I write about it, I share it with the world, I give away my intellectual capital, and it comes back to me in droves in the form of new clients. And this is something that might be able to work for you as well. So it turns out that generosity, being generous, can be pretty sexy in the world of professional services. If you're providing a service to somebody and you're generous with your time, with your answers, it is like a magnet. It attracts the right people, the ones who want to work with you. To me, tricks and gimmicks have always been a major turnoff, as I mentioned earlier. And I like to say the one-trick ponies are starving. So if you focus on one single tactic, if you focus on trying to game the system or creating something that is based on short-term results, it might work for a while, but it's probably not going to work in the long term, and you'll always be going back to the drawing board trying to find that new tactic that's going to work. So I like to go after things that are sustainable and really are focused on long-term brand building, business building, and forming long-term relationships with clients. So what is my secret? What's the secret to generating all these leads? What's been the secret for all this? Let's get into it. I'm going to show you. And this is all about using promotion, analytics, and creativity to create a winning lead generation process. So the goal of this webinar is I'm going to provide you with an overview of my process that's worked for me, my winning process. And hopefully you can incorporate these tips into your own efforts for generating leads. You can incorporate these into your own opportunities, and you can go and turn this into something that works for your business. So here's the big picture of the process that I've used to generate higher quality opportunities for my service business than I would get by relying on one single tactic. And I'm going to start with this process. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of these 12 steps, and then I'm going to get into some specific ones for the rest of the webinar. So the first thing I always recommend is understanding what the goals are for your business. I call it a moonshot goal because it's not a goal that's really something that you're looking to achieve by the end of this year, for example. It's something that you're looking to achieve well into the future, 1, 3, 5 years into the future. I actually usually define a moonshot goal personally as something that you're going to be looking to do 5 years into your business. So it's something that's really pretty far out there, and it's something that you need to take steps in order to get there. And this is adapted from the Apollo space program, the moon space program that they had in the United States in the 50s and the 60s. After you have your moonshot goal, you have to say, okay, well, what service can I offer that's going to give me the opportunity to reach that revenue? Not every service is created equal, and sometimes you can provide service with people, you can provide services to clients, and it's so hands-on, so labor-intensive that you'll never be able to reach your goals providing that service. So you need to decide what services, specific services you can allow you to reach that goal over time. You need to have a unique selling proposition. You need to set and confirm your unique selling proposition. You need to research the type of customer that would want this solution you have. Who needs this service, and where do they hang out? What demographics do they have? Learning more about them. Next thing, you craft an epic solution. So to me, an epic solution is what I had mentioned earlier. It's basically giving away what you're looking to do. It's giving away a lot of your intellectual capital and then having it come back to you in the form of leads. Now, it might sound far-fetched, it might sound a little bit crazy, but it's what's worked for me. And if you look at others who have been very successful in their service business, this is almost always what they do. They give away the results, they give away the solution, and then for those who don't have the time or the capability of implementing that solution, they will hire that consultant to give them the results that they talked about on their blog post or on their case study, however they shared it. You put it out there, you put yourself out there, and you learn about the audience. Not only that, but you also have to pay sometimes to promote yourself, because it's not always easy to get placement for your items, or it's not always easy to get placement through organic channels. It's not always easy to get predictable audiences. So if you can pay a little bit of money, if you're not afraid to pay for advertising of your epic solution, what's going to happen is the leads are going to come in more consistently. If you're only relying on word of mouth or things like that, then it's going to be more inconsistent. You also want to find partners, and you can recruit prospects, people that can work with you using outreach methods, using legal, safe, GDPR compliant outreach methods. You want to qualify the leads that come in, the inbound leads, and also you want to make sure that the people you talk to are qualified to work with you. From there, you build a solution with them using your service offering, but making it unique to their needs, making sure that they have what they need and they're comfortable with the solution you build. You get in there, you pitch, and you close your deal, and then you forecast that impact on your moonshot, meaning you say, okay, well, I had a goal. Am I actually meeting this goal, and am I on track to meet that goal? So you give yourself a complete feedback loop, and you get to be very happy with how you do. This is an overview, a high-level overview of my process. And today, I'm going to talk about half of them. So I'm going to talk about approximately half of them and give you some ideas as to how I do these steps. So the ones that are highlighted in blue are what I'm going to talk about on this call. So let's get into it. The first thing, your unique selling proposition. What solution can you provide better than everybody else? Now, I have a dead simple process. I've given you 2 process maps in the first 8 minutes of this webinar, but these are important, and I think that it helps us give us a visual. So most service providers, what they do is they listen to the needs of their clients or their prospective clients. They research the problem, they implement the solution for that client, they write up that solution, meaning they put it into a blog post, a case study, or even a white paper. They share it out with the world, and that is their way of attracting new customers. You highlight the work you did in the past, you highlight your unique process, your unfair advantage, and you put it out into the world, and that is, like I said, a magnet for attracting new customers. And so it all starts with listening to your client's needs. Now, tell me in the chat, what I would like you to do is tell me in the chat what you do best, and when you're working with clients, what needs are you fulfilling for them? So I'd love for you to put in the chat window, what are you the best at? What is your best skill service that you provide? And this will help me understand where you're all coming from and how I can give you examples that might help you in your individual quest. So if you have a chance, please do type in there, what are you the best at? Not only, what do you provide to your clients, to your customers, that they know, yes, this is a really, they've chosen the right provider. And while I'm waiting for those answers to come in, hopefully we get some coming in. Awesome. Wally says, I create lead generating websites that help find clients. Awesome. So when you say you are creating lead generation websites, are you talking about creating basically websites on behalf of the clients, or are you creating the lead generation website yourself and then selling the leads over to your client? I'm curious about that. And while we're looking at it, I'm going to keep on going, and then I'm going to see what comes in as well. So how do you know if a problem needs your specific expertise? Well, you need to do the work, right? And so what I like to say is, if your existing clients are asking for a solution, that is a really good sign that this solution is something that might be a service you can promote into the future, something that you can focus on and work on developing. If the market is asking for the solution, so if the broader market beyond just that client is asking for the solution. Now, one trap I find that service providers fall into is we might look at a single solution we provided for one client and assume that the greater market needs that as well. And sometimes we find out that that problem we solved is really specific to that specific client, and it's not repeatable over time. So you do want to listen to the marketplace and see if the market is also asking for that solution. And then finally, can you deliver that solution effectively and efficiently? Effectively means that you are going to make your client happy, and they're going to be talking about you to win more clients. And efficiently means that you make a profit off of providing that service. Now, if you can provide a service that's effective but not efficient, then over time, that's going to be a trouble for your business because you're not making any profit, and you can't reinvest your profits into promotion, into content marketing, into the things like giving away your solution that are going to attract more clients. And so before we get to number 2, I'm going to take a look at some of the items that came in. So Yuri says, improving internal and external communications within enterprises by our software communication toolbox. Okay, so that's, I think that can be a very good area. It's a lot of broad terms, so it's hard for me to really understand what that would be. Beverly says, increasing ROI for our clients through comprehensive medical claims auditing for self-insured employers. Awesome. It sounds like a lot of you have really perfected your USP and elevator pitch, so it's cool to see that these are coming in. Understanding the client's problems, then solutioning within your platform's capabilities. We help office printer dealers make data-driven management, making it easier to manage printer costs, etc. Implementation of ERP software. Geosynthetics for private DOT projects. Wow, that's very specific, Amanda. We review engineered specifications and offer the best products for their projects. Service is big for us. We also market our products for free to our market distributors. Simon says, great video production, on time, on budget, also personalized business relationship. And Karen says, provide weather insights to companies for more safety and efficiency. Awesome. So it looks like a lot of you do have some really well set up value propositions, and you're in a very specific focused industry. And I think that doing that and knowing who you're going after makes it a lot easier to then produce and create the content. So that's awesome. And so what you do is you take those USPs and you use it to decide what architects are you going to go at, or archetypes are you going to go after, and getting a better understanding of who needs your solution. So here's my simple way of quantifying your market opportunity. It's basically doing some kind of research around the problem you're solving, problems that you mentioned in the chat window. Who else has that problem? Are there a lot of people having this problem? Is there any volume out there? And if you were to put yourself out there and create and market the solution, would there be people who would say, I want that? And so one really simple way is just looking at how your client needs a solution, do others. And so who else needs what you provide right now? Obviously, I know you've done a lot of research. It looks like a lot of you are very focused on the sales side. You're doing business to business sales, and you're doing it high ticket items. So research who's having this problem. What are people actually out there having this problem? So for example, I do some consulting around Google Analytics, and I can find out that there are a lot of people out there using keyword research that are having troubles with cross-domain tracking in Google Analytics. And not only that, but there's a pretty decent search volume if it added up. I get thousands of people a month going to my site looking for information on cross-domain tracking. And there's some commercial intent as well because the cost per click is pretty high. And so in my case, I use kwfinder.com, and I'm able to tell that there's quite a bit of commercial intent. And so if I were to write something, for example, on cross-domain tracking, I think it would do pretty well. And so this is a little tip. KW Finder has a free version to start out, and then if you want to, you can pay for it as well. And it's a really great way to understand, is there demand for what I have to offer? And then you deliver the solution until you're comfortable as the expert. So a lot of you, it seems like you're pretty far along. Those of you who have entered into the chat, you have big businesses that are established. You know your solution, what it is. You have the USP settled down, and you're able to deliver the solutions. I think a lot of what it comes down to is then showing your solution to the world and getting people to understand what you can do. And that's where I say, be epic, give away your best solution. Now, looking at the type of businesses that you have, now you might have competition that's out there. There might be some reasons why you wouldn't want to give away your solution, but I'm just going to share what's worked for me, and you can take that and understand whether that's going to work for you as well. So be epic and give away your best solution. And so what I like to do is I like to write up and share my structure, or I structure it around my intellectual capital, and I just start writing about what I created. So here's an example. And honestly, I put this in the slides before I knew the businesses you had, but you might be violently opposed to this next idea. But I recommend proving that you're the expert by giving away the solution, or at least giving away the strategy, the high level piece behind your solution. And then when people realize that it's actually a lot harder to do than you think, then they will hire you as the person who brought it to their attention, as the person to help them with their solution. And so let your expertise be known, share it with the world. Now here's an example of something that I've done. So I created my blog, and I just write about solutions, and it's worked really well to the tune of getting more visitors every month to my site than I ever imagined, just by writing about what I know, just by writing about the problems that I'm solving in the world of Google Analytics, specifically around Google Analytics. And so I started a blog. This is a post about cross-domain tracking in Google Analytics. So I wrote this blog post, and I keep it updated, and it just talks about a solution that I've had troubles with and my students have had, and I basically just give them the answer. I give away the answer, and sure enough, what happens is this attracts new potential customers for me like a magnet. I get a never-ending stream of requests for people like this that are basically saying, hey, I need your help. Can you do this? Can you do that? Asking me for solutions. And they come in, people contacted me through their web form. All kinds of people all over are asking me to say, hey, can you do this for me? Can you help me with this solution? So I gave away this solution thinking that I was going to be helping solve people's problems and they'd be self-sufficient. They could do this on their own. And a very large percentage of them, a very large number of people come to me and say, okay, I read this. I see that you know how to do the solution. I'm not comfortable doing it myself. Can you do it for me? This is what's always worked for me, is people say, I know how to do it now, but I want the certainty of an expert. I want to not screw something up. I don't want to break anything. I want the results that you showed here, and I want you to do it for me because you are the expert. And it's been great. This has worked really well for my business over the years. Number 4, once you have that solution in place, once you've written it up, that's when you want to start to do things like pay to play, amplify your message, amplify media as much as you can. So once you have a solution, you want to get in front of the right people. Now, there's a few ways you can do it. When you've got the best solution, it is a good time to attract an audience. Basically, going after an audience when you're not sure what your solution is or you don't really know what to send them, it's a lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted ad spend because you're sending people to a place where you're not confident in the solution. And so when you can figure out the organic search piece of it, you can figure out the organic content and then send people to it, you get a lot better results. So for example, here's an example of a post where I went and I clicked on a blog post And then I was remarketed to over and over again with that same blog post. So if you have people going to your website, well, remarketing, or you could do audience building, you can send them to your articles and let them know about what your solution is. And this is actually really inexpensive to get people to come back to your solution or to go to your solution in the first place using both remarketing. Remarketing means that they've been to your site previously, or using lookalike audiences, building an audience based on that. Another example is build your audiences, and you can create different audiences of people who may be interested in your service based on, like I mentioned before, lookalike audiences, based on the audience technology that these ad platforms give to you. And so if the ad platform allows you to use these techniques in your country, it can be really effective. And basically you're going after audience that may not be exactly aware of you right now, but they're similar to the audience who has used and needed your solution in the past. And so these audience definitions are a great way to scale. I found people have great success using lookalike audiences or building audiences based on what they know, or putting themselves out there and finding the early adopters to look at their solution through their blog posts, and then remarketing to those who either went to the blog post or who looked like them. And that really, really works out great. It works extremely well. And then finally, you might want to look into Quora ads, because Quora ads is the only ad platform that I know of that really works well from top of funnel to the bottom of the funnel. People have questions and queries on from super beginner, super basic at the top of the funnel, all the way down to people who have intent to buy or asking questions there. And you can use the Quora program in order to get started. And Quora is a emerging ad network, and it has one of the strongest ROIs of any network out there. So if you haven't tried Quora yet and you wanted to get out in front of your audience and you know what your epic solution is, promoting your solution through Quora can be a really cost-effective way to get that next level of your audience.
We use it too, Jeff, actually, here at
Awesome.
Leader. Yeah, we even go on there to answer questions sometimes, which I think is really, helpful to increase engagement on Quora about similar topics. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Quora. It's worked out really well for me. I answer questions, and I'm just getting started with the promoting answers, and it does work really well. Amanda says, is Quora better than remarketing ads on Google? I don't know if it has to be an either or thing, Amanda, because the networks are obviously, Quora is happening within the Quora platform, and then remarketing on Google ads is going out to their entire audience network. So very rarely would somebody, it's not a choice of either or. Like you can advertise on Google remarketing and you can advertise on Quora, and they would work well. Now, as far as return on your ad spend, as far as the percentage return on your ad spend, most advertisers right now are finding the strongest return on ad spend. We're talking, sometimes 1,000%. That return on ad spend is strongest on Quora. The problem that people face often with these newer networks is inventory. Can they reach enough people to satisfy their goals? And that's why I say it's never a problem to use more than one ad network. In fact, I would recommend more than one ad network. And I think the reason why I mentioned Quora specifically is because not many people know that it even has an advertising platform. They're really new on the block, and they're fighting hard to gain market share and to get people to use it. And so if you were to type in Quora Quick Start and you wanted to get in there, if you're willing to commit to $1,000 a month advertising, I'll give you one-on-one ad support. And so that's what this page is on here. And just while I add it, I'm not affiliated with Quora. I don't have any horse in this race. I just found that I like to give people ideas, right? Ideas as to where they can find strong ROI. And if you hadn't heard about it before this, that's an opportunity for you. Wally says, to what extent do you want to give away a solution when getting started? Thanks. Yeah. So I think you're gonna have to take what I'm saying and understand how your industry works as well. Because obviously everybody is in this webinar is on a little bit different industry, and you might have different ways of going about things. And so I can't speak for how your industry works. But what I would say is the solution, this is really designed around service. Like, so if you can give away a piece of how your service works, enough that somebody knows that you're the expert, and maybe enough if they're a do-it-yourself or a DIY person, that they could actually try to implement this. But really the hook is that you want to let them know that if they want to implement this themselves, it's going to be difficult, and so they're best hiring an expert. So that's what it is. You're telling them that you're the expert. You're telling them that they can do it themselves, but you're warning them against that because of caveat A, B, and C. those are the caveats that make you the reason why they're the person they should hire. And that's really where the hook is. It's like you can teach people how to do it, you can teach people how to fish, or they can just go to the fish market and they can bring back fresh fish every day. And that's really what you're providing in this particular case. So top of funnel promotion is usually less expensive than the bottom of the funnel. I know it's easy to focus on really broad type of keywords or something that's the top of the, or the bottom of the funnel, because that's going to get the most action and it's going to have a high conversion rate. But even if you have a really high conversion rate, here's an example of the keyword PPC consultant or Google AdWords consultant or even AdWords consultants. Look at these. These are all somewhere between $40 and $60+ per click. Now, obviously, a click is not the same as a conversion. If you're paying $60 to be on the top of the page for something like this, you're going to have a really high conversion rate in order to even break even on your ad spend. And that's why I recommend with your Epic solution is you can go after things that are more top of funnel, things that are more focused on that solution itself. It's going to be a lot less expensive, and meaning that if it's less expensive, you can get more people to pay attention to you. You can get more opportunities with remarketing, staying in front of them. You can capture their email addresses and put them into your email program. You can learn a lot about the people who are finding your solution. And actually, that's going to lead us into our next section about learning who's been on our website. So once you have opportunities coming in, once you put yourself out there, you're going to have a lot of activity happening. So here's an example of me putting myself out there in some activity that came in. So a lead that came in the other day, about a week ago today, and it just says, hey, can you do a training for me? And I have a very specific question about that training. And I said, okay, well, I'll see if I can help you and I'll try to understand this. But one thing that was interesting was that I had never heard of the company. And so I wasn't sure if they'd have a budget to be able to afford what my costs are. And this is often something that happens, is that if you're providing a professional service, you want to make sure that the company who's asking for what you have to offer is going to be able to afford what you can do. And the way that I check that, often, one of the most rudimentary ways to do it, is I check them out on LinkedIn and I say, okay, well, what can I learn about this company? They have 2,700 employees on LinkedIn. That usually means if they have that many people on their LinkedIn, that means that they are a pretty large company. You can usually say somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 or even euros per employee. That's a pretty widely known industry benchmark. So this company with that many employees, we're talking about a company that can easily afford my service for a training or a workshop. And so this is somebody that is qualified. And if they're qualified, even looking at this, very quick rudimentary way of looking them up, and they pass other checks in my checking system, then I'm able to say, okay, let's get on a call and let's talk about the solution and see if it's right for you. I don't give them a price necessarily, but I know that that's somebody that's worth my time. Now, if they were to say, can you do a training, and they had zero presence on LinkedIn, they had zero employees, that means that whatever number I give them, they probably can't afford, and that's not really a good opportunity. So using stuff like LinkedIn is a really good way to just see, are these opportunities that are coming in by putting yourself out there, are they worth the time that you need to put in to take them to the next step?
I don't know if you saw Henrik's question here, but he actually had a pretty good one about how to deal with people who kind of don't want to be in the good old days over here of sales tactics.
Yeah. So companies don't believe in these tactics, and they say they want to do traditional sales, right? And this is very often, and it occurs all the time in business to business, and that is either you have a sales-driven organization or a marketing-driven organization, right? Or neither, I guess. But let's talk about the two that we can define. Sales-driven means that marketing is usually only there to support sales, and marketing is really meant to, put a booth at a trade show, or they're really supporting things that happen. And the sales team, what they'll do is they'll say, why spend our time creating a brand or creating an audience when the opportunity lies in just calling and dialing for money, like dialing for dollars, what we call it in the US, call it dialing for euros. For many of you, is that an opportunity? That works for many organizations, but a lot of those organizations are finding now that they're not able to meet the demand that or they're having more trouble getting through. Cold email is getting blocked more often. We have GDPR. It's a lot harder to get by on those things. Cold calling, I know, is illegal in many of your countries, right? So yes, there are people, and it's often generational. There are people who are nearing the end of their careers who do not want to adopt or try any new tactics They just want to go forward with how it worked and then be ready for their time to retire. Unfortunately, that is a hard culture to break. Now, I can't spend, I don't have enough time on this webinar to talk about how to break through and create the right culture. Often what I recommend is you can make an impact by being experimental, or you can do things by asking for forgiveness versus asking for permission. So if you think this is going to work, maybe carve out a small budget or some of your time in order to test the waters with this. Do it in a concentrated way. Try to figure it out for just one particular service using a percentage of your time, maybe not all of it. Still do your primary job function to support people, but then try to find out a way to prove that this can work in a way that has tangible results. Now, the fortunate thing is that you can get results from a marketing perspective. There's lots of numbers that you can get as far as traffic to your site. You can even see how many leads came in. There's a lot of opportunities to prove this out. Generally speaking, you just need to put it out there. Now, often the problem is integration with your overall sales team, technology choices and stuff like that. Yeah, that can be a problem. Generally speaking, you want to keep it as small of an item, a test and learn that you can do so that you're not ruffling the feathers and you're not going after the entire organization. You're just trying to have a small test, a small win to show that this thing could work, not just now with your small win, but at scale. And so it's a long process that you have to go through in order to convince an organization that's traditionally sales driven to become marketing driven. And it may be impossible task when you think about it, but you don't know if you don't try. And my recommendation is to start small. Start as small as possible. So what about passive opportunities? What about when somebody's visiting on your website? Well, you can learn about who visited your site using Google Analytics. So here's an example of a post that I wrote quite some time ago, and it's basically an advanced segment in your Google Analytics that allows you to see what internet service providers went to your site. And so what I do is I filter out major ISPs, for example, ISPs from the US, like the Comcast or other ISPs that are major providers, using an advanced segment. So if you went to this article on Jeffalytics, internet service providers and Google Analytics, there's an advanced segment. You just click on install that segment, and that link will allow you to install it right into your Google Analytics. It prevents certain service providers from showing up on your report. And if you apply that segment and you do a table filter, you can look at an individual page. This is my cross-domain tracking page. I can see what service providers went to this page, how often they went there, and see if they're a potential lead. Now, there's people who are on here who spend lots and lots of time on my website. Now, you can do that in Google Analytics, or since we are on a webinar with Lead Feeder, and they didn't ask me to do this, this is my choice, Lead Feeder can do this for you automatically. And so what I love about Lead Feeder is that, yes, I have this post that's doing really well on cross-domain tracking. I'm getting lots of people coming into the website, and it turns out that they've identified, just since February 24th, it's not that long ago, they've identified 698 companies that have been to my website reading about cross-domain tracking. And so I can create a feed in Lead Feeder, create it for cross-domain tracking, and I'm getting tons of people, tons of companies, defined companies that are looking at my website. And then I can look at it and I can say, okay, well, who works there? I can add it to my LinkedIn Sales Navigator account. I can share it to my CRM system. I could even find somebody's email and send them an email and saying, hey, I noticed that you were asking about this, you were looking at this. I can reach out to you and I can understand whether they have a solution or not. Why is this particular business spending lots of time on my website looking for a solution, and do they need a consultant? And so basically you're taking advantage, you're going in there and you're seeing who came to your website, you're seeing where they have needs, you're making this data-driven, and then you're reaching out to the ones effectively to provide them with a solution. And the funny thing is, this is this might sound anecdotal, but it's absolutely true. One of the companies that's on this sheet right now, I did the screenshot on May 9th. These companies actually just reached out to me yesterday on LinkedIn and said, I want you to do a training for our whole organization. So it does happen. And you can see, it's so nice to see these logos, because these logos match the ones that I research on LinkedIn. It matches the inbound leads that I have. It works in a fantastic way. And so Lead Feeder is a nice glue where if you put yourself out there and you're bringing in people to your site, not everybody's going to raise their hand and say, I need your solution. But if that company is coming back to your site over and over again, reading what you have to say over and over again, guess what ends up happening? They're either going to reach out to you, which is, it happens a few percentage points of the time. I'm lucky that they had reached out to me. Or you're going to have to reach out to them and decide and figure out who's there and figure out who at that company can help you, or who you can help at that company, who you can get in front of in order to implement your epic solution. They found you, they need you, you just need to close the deal. And so it's nice, you can use remarketing, you can use lookalike audience to pull them into your solution. They're somewhat interested in it, or they're very interested in it. And then you can use lead feeder to just look at what companies are there and put it into your sales process. And now you're handing the best quality leads to your sales team. You're handing them leads that have been looking at your solution. And so, Henrik, that is something, going back to the question about how do you use marketing to support sales, I think that a salesperson would eat this up if you could say, hey, they're really interested in this solution. Now they have something to talk about. Salespeople often just want to have something to talk about. They want to resonate. They want to be familiar. And that's really where I find that marketing can support a sales-driven organization, is that but when the salesperson reaches out, they're not reaching out cold. They're not reaching out blind. They're reaching out to somebody who is actually aware of you. They've seen the name, they've seen the logo, and they've seen that you have the solution. And that's a much more receptive audience, in my opinion. And I would say it's nearly a fact. If somebody knows who you are, they're going to be much more receptive than a cold email. That's why I've never had to work on cold email. That's why I've never had to do that, because I put my solution out there and I let people self-select by going to my site, by going there, and either they're going to contact me, which happens a little bit. I wish it happened all the time. Everybody who was interested in something would contact you, but that's where the salesperson can shine, because they're the ones who are going to go out there and make those contacts. So the most in-demand consultants that I've seen, agencies, they've been giving away their solutions for years. And then I just want to share, I'm going to close this out with a story. How did I meet Lead Feeder in the first place? Lead Feeder reached out to me after I created this common internet service providers post that I mentioned. And they said, hey, Jeff, you could use our tool that we're building right now. It's called Lead Feeder. And that was how we met. And they were very early in the process. We've struck up a relationship since then. I have been to the offices of Lead Feeder in Helsinki, and now we're here on this webinar. I love what the product stands for, and I use it, and hopefully you can use it as well, and you can find out how people are using and seeing your epic content. So that's my process. Use your expertise to build a business development flywheel. Start with your goal, put yourself out there, and people will become attracted to you, will become attracted to your business, and it will make all your downstream effects much, much easier. And that's it. That's my epic solution for you. So I mentioned that I recommend giving away your solution. I'm giving you my solution right now. I'm giving you how I do business development. And some of you are going to take this and run with it and implement it. And if you need a little bit more help in that case, if you want some more information, I'm going to leave, and it's just a little bit of information about how to contact me if you want to reach out to me. And then the other thing is, if you liked hearing my thoughts on lead generation, I do have this thing called the Agency Bootcamp. And it's basically a quick 5-6 lesson video course that just shows you how this all works. It's a free course, and you can sign up at that URL, and we'll be sending it out to you after the webinar as well.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And I see here that somebody has a question that we get so often, is that people, how do you make people not feel creepy when you find them on Lead Feeder and then you email them? How do you kind of go, it is a warm lead, but they don't know that they're warm yet, so. Yeah.
All right, I'm coming back on camera to answer your questions. And so, Amanda, that's a good question. I think it's an art, right? So I'd say it's more art than science. The science is telling you that they went to your site. The art is how do you convince them to come in? And so you can either personalized outreach to, you can either go after you can do account-based marketing where you email everybody in that company and say, hey, do you need help with, you could do broad category of analytics. You could say, I noticed that you were on my site. That probably won't work very well. You can call into the company. Those are all things you can do. When I do outreach, I just make it very personal. and I talk about why I try to form a connection with that company as to why things would work. And so I focus more on the connection and the value that you can bring versus saying, I know who you are. I find that the I know who you are doesn't really work very well. And so you want to, you have to find that balance. So what I would say, for example, is to somebody like, if somebody were on my site about cross-domain tracking, I might look out and reach out to the VP, or I might reach out to the analyst, the person who I think is on that page. And I might say, hey, have you ever needed Google Analytics training? Talk about like the training piece of it, or a workshop or something like that. And I just mentioned that I have this broad category, and they might have the opportunity then to say, okay, yeah, we do need training. Yes, we need that piece, or no, do you work as a consultant? So I'd keep it at a high level, not to know exactly the detail they're looking for, and then let them self-select if they're in there. That's how I would go about it with the ones that I'm showing on my example. Erwin says, the fun is that when I call a lead which Leadfeeder has identified for me, they often say, what coincidence, you read my mind. Yeah, that's great. Yep, you never have to tell them about Leadfeeder, right? It's a coincidental thing. Hey, it's weird. I was just thinking about you. And it does happen.
I love that feedback. I have yet to hear that from someone, Erwin. So thank you so much for letting me know that there is some, I've always wondered how it could work out because we don't hear that too often. So that's really great feedback.
Yep. Emily says, how do you reach out next to somebody? Do you do email, straight to sales? I'd have to understand how your organization works. My organization's pretty small, so I likely would just email directly as me. I think a bigger organization might have to have a process in place or know where they're looking at. Maybe within your CRM, if you add it to Pipedrive, for example, or you add it to your CRM, do you have the ability to then to follow up? Does that go to your sales team? So it's how you integrate it into your existing processes. Is how you would do it, I would say. Do you always reach out to warm leads with email, or do you do a phone call or mail information to them, follow-up call later? Again, you have to experiment with what organization and what you already have in place. I think the more complex your organization, the more you're going to want to put it into your existing process, or put it, get it over to the team that would handle that normally. Really, I think this is just a way to feed in better opportunities than you might be able to do if you were just looking at anonymous people, or if you were, it's really just making it more real. You could also do remarketing to these audiences. You can build audiences and do remarketing, and maybe they can come in and identify themselves as a lead that way. So it doesn't have to be exclusive, right? It doesn't have to be just because they're a known company. They can't be part of your remarketing. They can't be part of somebody who identifies themselves as a lead. What if you don't have a large enough sales team? You might want to try finding people then in LinkedIn using Sales Navigator and putting out there some kind of they can become part of your nurture. And then how do you define a hot lead, Emily? That's my question back to you, is if you have a hot lead definition, then you can either decide this is a hot lead now based on seeing them, or you can put it into your cool or warming leads pile and do whatever else you do to make them a hot lead. Yes, Leadfeeder does tell you, Jason says, they tell you what company, but not a particular person. Are there any special tactics you use to try to identify appropriate contact at the website? I mean, that can be difficult because there can be some false positives. Usually what you want to do is you want to try to form a connection with that company. So one tactic that I didn't mention before that could work for you in this case is, do you want to connect with them on LinkedIn? So do you just connect with each person in a job title that might be relevant on LinkedIn? And that could be the whole, you just read my mind. That might be the opportunity there, is you don't tell them you saw them, but and that might trigger it, or connecting with people in this situation. And so using what Erwin mentioned might be a good opportunity for you there.
Yeah, I even shared, we recently interviewed one of our customers who talked about the same thing, is kind of waiting just a few minutes, not right away when you see them on your website. But yeah, like even an hour or even a day later, yeah, it can kind of help with that not feeling like you're creeping them out factor.
Yeah. Yep.
I shared that.
And if you think about it, like if you want to have a connection with these companies, connecting with them on LinkedIn, it can be a good way to do it, right? I mean, it's a business social network, and if they're going to need your service at any point in time, being a connection won't hurt. I think there's many ways to approach LinkedIn. I don't like the I'm looking for like-minded people, connect with me type connection requests where you know that and then they have a headline that says, I'm doing this for these people. Like they put their USP in the headline, and then you know that the second you accept, they're going to be messaging you, right? That's not how I do it, but a lot of people have found that to be effective, or that could be a best practice for some people. I think you have to decide what's comfortable for you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big gimmick guy. I'm trying to build a relationship that when that person is ready, they think of me as the analytics guy. And that's worked for me. I'm the Google Analytics guy for many people based on these relationships, and they come to me when they need to. The thing is that only a certain number of people will raise their hand and say, I need help. If you go on the offensive and you can get in front of them and you can suggest where they need to go, you will have a much higher success rate than if you just wait for somebody to come to you, right? If you just only do marketing, if you're only passive and just accepting opportunities that come in, it won't be nearly as strong as if you put it on the offensive where you're going after and you're trying to close those opportunities, even if it's just your hottest leads.
Yeah, these are all really great. And it looks like Erwin was noting that he integrates with MailChimp. And in that case, you can see exactly if they're in your MailChimp database and you have lead feeder.
Oh, cool.
You can actually see the exact person, but that's only if you have the MailChimp integration.
Yeah.
There've been some great questions, though. I really appreciate everybody's input here. I don't know if anyone has any other. Oh, here we go. We got a few more rolling in.
Yeah. Do you add a note on your Connect with LinkedIn? I would recommend going through and experimenting what works with you. And the biggest thing you can do with LinkedIn contacts is to keep metrics around what's working. So basically, and just so you know, this is a shameless plug, but on my site, datadrivenyou.com, we have a course that's only dedicated on, it's basically the 80-20 of LinkedIn outreach, very comprehensive around how you can get the best results and how you can even track your connection requests and what's getting accepted and response rates and stuff like that. So if you wanted to know more about that, you can send me an email and I can share with you more details about that program that we have. But it comes down to, you can try formulas, but you want to, anything that you try out there, you want to have metrics to say whether it works or not. So you can do a split test and you can send out through Sales Navigator pretty easily. You can send out 10 connection requests with a note, 10 requests without a note, and you can see which ones accept. And then you can also see which ones make it into the reply. And so I would driven process versus just trying to do a best practice of somebody else and assuming it's going to work for you. Best practices are almost always never work when you apply it to your situation, because those best practices were created for somebody else's unique situation. Looks like Tammy always adds a note, makes it personal. Henrik, thanks for the webinar. Hot topic and most challenging for me is reaching my audience online who is actually interested, and this is a huge help to getting closer to getting in contact with their true audience. I love it. That's awesome.
That's great to hear. Yeah. Thank you, Henrik. Well, we have.
Oh, go ahead. It's not easy, right? It's not super easy to do any of these things, but what we're doing is we're giving ourselves a better opportunity. We're giving ourselves a better chance, and we're doing it in a way that is ethical, that we agree with. And not only that, but it's setting yourself up for when that company is ready long-term, they know who you are. Really, really valuable in the marketplace. Wally says, other than Quora, what is the best way to drive traffic to your solution? So I love, obviously organic search is pretty great because it's free. I found that social media has not been significant for me. Like you have to really do a lot of curation and building in order to get tons of traffic from Twitter.
And there's a lot of rules now, but like Facebook ads. And,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's been hard.
Yeah. So blogging and getting Google traffic is obviously the best because it's free and it's limitless. But if in addition to that, it's then, I think remarketing is a really good return on investment. And I think that core ads is a good return on investment because the clicks are less expensive. And then if you want to go more broad, you can do general promoted boosted posts. But even then you want to make sure you do it to a lookalike audience or a very specific segment on something like Facebook. So basically the more you want to scale up, you want to scale out from the most efficient thing you can do on. And so I always recommend people, if you have no audience at all right now, or if you don't know about it, share it on LinkedIn and just share the expertise on your LinkedIn profile. Everybody has some connections there, and just get feedback there as a LinkedIn native post and see what people say about it and see if they're interested in what you're doing, and take that feedback, the constructive criticism, and make it better. And then once you've arrived at your solution being solid and you've thought through the angles, then you can pay to promote it. I would move it then to your company blog or place a platform that you control. So then you can have your pixels in place. You can do remarketing. You can do all the additional media and stuff like that. So that's what I'd recommend is put it out there in a way that you have a receptive audience, get their feedback, and then move it out. And if you don't have an audience, it's LinkedIn, because everybody has some kind of audience on LinkedIn. Where can I find the best info on increasing organic web traffic? I mean, there's so many courses out there about organic web traffic. What I found, I read a lot of blogs. I mean, I mostly get my information from blogs. I love the Backlinko blog. If you want to just do something great, go to type in Backlinko skyscraper technique, and I find that is the most comprehensive for the rest of us way of looking at SEO. And it's basically look at what's happening in a search results page and just be better. That's the strategy I've always done. I don't really use any gimmicks or tactics on SEO either. I do write for keywords using that tool, kwfinder.com. But what I do is I just try to make the best solution on the search results page. If I search for something and the results are poor, that is an opportunity, because those results are ripe for the taking. Right? And I just make a better solution. And that's just been my strategy, is like, I just do better.
People forget too the importance. I know nothing gimmicky about this, but more about design of your website. That is really important to have a good user experience too. So I'd say for increasing organic traffic, definitely everything Jeff said, but then also too, I have a common thing where I'll be talking to people and they'll go, oh, we're not getting a lot of traffic to our website. Lead Feeder isn't picking up leads. And I look at their website and I'm like, well, we might need to make some changes here, so you might want to, hiring somebody to help with that isn't super expensive, but it's definitely worth it. And I'm a big proponent of UX, and I think it helps.
Yeah, and if you want to send me an email, for anybody, you have my email up there. If you want to ask me for some links that I sent out or ask me specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. My blog, Jeffalytics, has a ton of content, and it's really, I struggle with this stuff too. When I struggle with a solution, for us, that's been good. It's been great. It keeps on increasing. And so if you have struggles in some of these things, I'm happy to share with you, or it already exists on the website.
Thank you so much for everything. This has been really great, Jeff. I appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you, and look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great day, no matter what time it is where you are. Bye-bye.